Hey guys, Yips here, coming at you with another video, and this one today is going to be about Mythic Zek'voz. So, Mythic Zek'voz, as an Affliction Warlock, a really good fight for Aff, extremely powerful, and really important to notice a few things on this boss fight. Number one is going to be movement. Obviously, with the loss of life tap and things of that nature, Warlock does not have as much movement utility as it used to. So what's going to happen when you're moving is you're going to want to be thinking about where you want to be positioning every time you refresh your dots, as those are the instant casts that you have. And you want to be thinking about where you want to be positioned in the raid. So every single time some sort of movement mechanic comes out, or I need to reposition, I'm going to be refreshing the dot that has the least duration, casting a Death Bolt, Phantom Singularity. Whatever's off CD and optimal is going to be what I'm going to be using to facilitate that movement. Movement also has a huge part to play in terms of positioning, so a lot of the time, since you don't want to be stacked on this boss, you'll see if I'm getting close to raid members, whenever I have to refresh my dots, I'll be actively trying to move away from them. In terms of cooldown usage, obviously this boss has ads that spawn on them, so you want to be making sure that you're saving your cooldowns for when the ads happen, as your cooldowns are much more effective when used on multiple targets than when just used on single target, and it's not a huge single target DPS loss to save your cooldowns for ads. So on this boss fight in the opener, all I'm going to be doing is my standard single target rotation, getting my dots out, popping my Dark Soul Misery, casting as many UAs as I can in my Phantom Singularity, Dark Glaring to extend, and then Death Bolting. Really important that you notice I pick a good spot to stand, not too stacked next to my raid group, and just sitting here and absolutely turreting the boss. Really important that you maximize your Shadow Bolt cast to the best of your ability. Shadow Bolt may not seem that important, but it actually does make a significant portion of your DPS, and the more that you're able to just stand still and maximize that single target rotation, the better you're going to end up doing on any given boss fight. So we'll see here in a moment the dance is coming out. That's when I really want you guys to kind of focus on the way that I move on this particular boss encounter. So you'll see here if the dance comes out, and every single time that I have to move, you'll see me refreshing my dots, and every time that I'm refreshing, I'm making sure I'm moving in an active way that puts me in a better position. So you saw I moved as far out as I could there by refreshing my dots in order to make sure that I'm as far away from other players so I don't cleave people with the I-beam when that ends up happening. So that's kind of the opener. You're just using all of your cooldowns, you're just sort of maximizing your DPS rotation in terms of single target, and it's nothing too difficult, it's nothing crazy, right? You haven't seen anything nutty yet. So what ends up happening next on the boss fight is ads are spawning. Ads spawn in 1 minute into the encounter, and then they spawn every 2 minutes after that. So you can see here that in approximately 8 seconds we'll have ads spawning. My Phantom Singularity has just come off cooldown. I will not be using it until the ads end up spawning, and what's going to happen is the ads will spawn. I will Seed of Corruption, Phantom Singularity when they all get stacked on the boss. I will cast as many agonies as I can, and then I will continue the single target rotation on the boss afterwards. That's going to be always the priority when the ads are spawning, is making sure that you're getting that dot cleave out and then focusing on your single target rotation. So it's very important to note that when these ads are spawning, you generally speaking want to be on a low shard count, because if you're not on a low shard count, you're going to be shard capping yourself by casting all of those dots, and nobody's going to be having any fun. So you'll see here the ads are spawning shortly, and I'm going to do exactly what I said. I'm just going to Seed of Corruption, Phantom Singularity, get as many agonies out as I can, and that's going to really help me fly on the DPS meter every single time that these ads end up spawning. So you see here I get my agony out, wait for them to all get gripped up, stacked up, cast my Seed of Corruption, Phantom Singularity, cast as many agonies as I can, and then I'll focus on single targeting the boss with my Haunt and with my Death Bolt. Kind of important that you make sure that you focus on the dot priority instead of focusing on single targeting. And kind of actually a really important subtle note here to make. Notice how my Warlock just moved from here to here by using instant dots, right? So I have targets available for me to dot, and I can dot them at good moments. And I want to be positioned away from the melee, because when I-beams come out, I want to make sure that I'm spread from the group. So you saw there, I was actively thinking, okay, I'm going to be refreshing my dots here. I may as well use that time to move into a better position, because the boss is going to be brought on top of the ad for additional ad cleave. So I've positioned myself really well here in a spot where there's not really too many people next to me, in order to not kind of group up around the boss, because that is where most players will be playing. Just maintaining really good 2-target cleave here, just, doing the standard stuff, maintaining my dots on both targets, trying to snipe UAs when I can. And here I get the puddle drop-off debuff. All I'm going to do is move that out to the side of the room and just call for a grip here, because I know the dance is coming up. That's just the way the timings work on this particular boss fight. So I just call for a grip. As soon as that drops off, Tet goes ahead and grips me back into the dance here, and we continue on with the boss encounter. So that was the first set of ads. You guys kind of saw there what I was doing in terms of my movement, in terms of my DPS rotation when the ads are spawning, and now we have a little bit of downtime in terms of we just get to single target the boss. So you'll notice that my Dark Soul has just come back off cooldown. I just used Phantom Singularity, and we see that ads are going to be spawning in 52 seconds. I am not going to be using my Dark Soul Misery here. I'm going to be saving it for my Dark Lair cooldown, because if I can combine those together with my Phantom Singularity, which again, 52 seconds left on ads, 41 seconds left on cooldown, I'll have it back up. If I can combine all of those together, I can get a huge burst off on all of those targets and maximize my DPS to the best of my ability. So just maintaining the single target damage rotation, keeping my dots on at a good rate on the boss, making sure that I'm getting myself in a good position first before I start casting those shadow bolts and really just sitting here and turreting on the boss in particular. And yeah, so just making sure I'm focusing on my movement, all of that good stuff, waiting for my cooldowns to come back up. And that's really the key on this boss fight. I think a lot of Warlocks would be tempted to use their Dark Soul here. They would be tempted to use their cooldowns as they come back up, but you really want to make sure that you're saving for the ads, because you're just going to see me absolutely pop off once these ads are spawning. So I want to talk a little bit about the optimal rotation to use when these ads spawn. I do mess up on this kill. This was only our 10th pull on the boss fight. Every other attempt I did not mess this up, but on this one I made one too many casts, and then I just kind of had to redeem the situation in a different way. So it was just a little bit unfortunate. I'll talk about it in a second, but basically what you're going to want to be doing is making sure that you have a relatively low shard count. You can see here I'm at 2 shards. Phantom Singularity's off, Dark Soul Misery's off, your Trinket cooldown's off if you have one, my Dark Lair is coming back up, and we're going to be doing the same thing we did previously, except you're going to want to be making sure that you're pressing your Dark Soul Misery as soon as possible when these ads are spawning. I'm pretty sure I cast it as soon as I put my Phantom Singularity on the boss. And then you're going to be wanting casting all of those agonies, as many UAs as you can, just before your Phantom Singularity is about to fall, and then you're going to be Dark Lairing. I'll talk a little bit more about that when the ads are spawning. So here the ads spawn, I get that one agony out, I cast my Seed of Corruption, Dark Soul Misery, Phantom Singularity, cast as many UAs agonies as I can. They're going to get refreshed by the Dark Lair, and then I'm going to start casting Unstable Afflictions. Here is where I make my mistake. Casting this UA is the mistake. My Phantom Singularity is going to fall off before I get the GCD to press Dark Lair. So instead, what I end up doing is just casting more UAs, because I'm going to be able to extend those with my Dark Lair. However, it is much more beneficial to extend your Phantom Singularity than it is to extend your Unstable Afflictions. I don't do it in any other pull attempts, and I'm really sad I did it on the kill. However, that being said, it is what happened. I redeem it by doing more single target, but again, it could have been way better. So I end up casting as many UAs as I can, Dark Glaring, pressing that Death Bolt, and then just maintaining my dots on the ads. It is worth noting here that the ads, all of those dots get extended by the Dark Lair, meaning I don't have to worry about refreshing them. I can just focus on that single target damage rotation, and you can see just how much DPS I'm actually pumping here on the meter. That is an absolutely just the massivest phase for Warlocks on this boss fight. When you get all of those cooldowns coming up with that ad set, you can just destroy the meters. Super, super good. You want to make sure that you're doing that every single time. So what's end up going to happening is we're going to get one more ad set. You can see it happening in about a minute here. It will line up with my Dark Soul Misery. I will use my Dark Soul Misery for it. It is important that this is going to be my last Phantom Singularity use before those ads end up spawning. So keeping track kind of on those cooldowns, keeping track on what's going to be happening next, which is going to be those ads. Afterwards, you're going to be transitioning into that 40% burn, where people are going to start getting mind controlled and dying. I am in the rotation. You can see on the bottom there, I am the 4th person to get that 100% damage buff. So I'm going to want to be making sure that I am saving my Dark Lair at least for that, as to kind of use that with the 100% damage modifier to do a lot of single target damage, and you will see just how much single target damage Affliction Warlocks can do when they get that 100% damage buff. Anyways, just sitting here doing my single target rotation, you'll note that I do not use this Phantom Singularity because the ads are coming up shortly, always making sure I'm on that low shard count when those ads are spawning so I do not end up shard capping myself, extremely important, and I'm just sitting here and just turreting these Shadow Bolts. Doing the dance, doing the movement really well, just making sure I'm positioned in a proper way, and the ads are spawning in 6 seconds. It's going to be the exact same thing as before, where you're just making sure that you're getting that Seed of Corruption out when they're all stacked, Phantom Singularity, casting the agonies, getting the damage out. It is a very, very cyclical type thing where you're constantly doing the same sort of rotation. So get all those dots out, press the Dark Soul Misery, cast all my agonies, and then go ahead and start single targeting the boss once I get all of my dots out, and this is where the damage really flies for lock. So many dots out on all of those targets, just absolutely crushing them. Gonna go ahead and dot out the next Void Weaver when the tanks and melee DPS end up cleaving the other one down, and just getting a good amount of DPS out on all of the stuff that needs to die. So here we're going to be pushing into that last end of the boss fight where he is at that 40% range. You see I have a minute and a half left on my Dark Soul cooldown and 30 seconds left on my Dark Glare. So it's going to be really important here that I make sure that I have a good amount of soul shards going into that 100% damage buff. Make sure that I save all my cooldowns for that 100% damage buff, so I can absolutely crush the boss when it ends up happening. This is the first attempt that we did get the boss into this phase, so I was not 100% sure on the timings in terms of what I was going to be doing. But that being said, I did use my Phantom Singularity here because I know that I want to be using it with my Dark Soul. So I feel like if I use it now, I have 60 seconds left on my Dark Soul, at least it will be up in timing with that Dark Soul, so I figured it was a good time to use it now, rather than delay just in case something wacky happened. Either way, just using good movement, making sure I'm spread out from the other ranged DPS, and just attacking the boss. Here it gets a little awkward because the boss is brought into kind of a weird position, but it's fine. No worries, just, maintaining my dots, maintaining my rotation, all of that goodness. And people are going to start getting MC'd. So you saw that kind of puddle there where that Warlock just went on that diamond marker. That is when you get that crazy damage buff, is when that ball hits the floor. You get that 100% damage buff for 20 seconds, and all of the Warlocks are just going to be popping their cooldowns and absolutely just smacking up that boss. I get lucky here. I do get the less timing with that 100% damage buff, which is extremely good because when you get that 100% damage buff with Lust, it's just like the stars align as a Warlock because you just do so much damage. So you see here, it's my turn. I'm moving over to my Puddle Soak. We just pressed Bloodlust. I have 3 Soul Shards. I have my Death Bolt. I have my Dark Soul Misery coming up in 10 seconds. I have my Phantom Singularity. I have everything that I could possibly want to slam this boss, including my pot. So you'll see me pot here. I'll be moving into a good position away from the raid because you end up fearing the raid when that mind control does end up fading. I'll be popping all my CDs, getting them out as quickly as I can, as I only have 19 seconds left before I am dead for the rest of the encounter, and you can just see how much you fly on the meters when you get this cooldown up. So this has been Zek'voz on Mythic difficulty. After this, I die because I get mind controlled, and that is going to be the end of Yippo, the Warlock, on this boss fight. Hopefully this has helped you think more critically about when to use your cooldowns, as well as how to maximize your DPS on this particular boss fight. If you have any more questions, be sure to post them in the comments. I will see if I can answer them, if I feel like, it's a reasonable thing to do. And yeah, I'll just let you guys enjoy the rest of the boss kill. This has been Zek'voz. I will be covering Vectis as well, probably in a day or so. I did play Destro in that boss fight, so you Destro Warlocks out there who are looking for a kill, I played Destro on Vectis because Affliction is not good on Vectis in terms of being a helpful raid player. So, thanks for watching. Let you guys watch the rest of this clip, and I'll talk to you guys later. Let's just say we slammed the boss, boys. Just get this soak. Just soak the ball.